All right, this is block 5, section 1, post-war problems, with the topic beginning with the Red Scare. The fact of the world in 1918-1919 was the successful communist revolution in Russia, which was incredibly bloody. Throughout the 1919 and 1920 year, Americans read in the newspaper stories of awful atrocities committed by communists and anti-communists in Russia. The killing of the Russian elite, the killing of the Russian nobility, the starvation of people, the nastiness of the Red Army. All of this put into Americans the fear that communism was about to take over the world. And it is an ideology, communism is an ideology which argues for world revolution of the workers. There was communist uprisings in Eastern Europe after World War I, in Hungary, in Germany, in Austria, that were put down with much ferocity. And with the success of American labor unions during the Progressive Age, many Americans began to believe that communism was coming to the United States. There were a lot of communist intellectuals in the United States. There was communist newspapers in the United States. And after the successful Russian Revolution and the bloodiness that it created, many Americans became fearful that communism was about to jump across the ocean and infect the American body politic. And this cartoon that you can see kind of shows very clearly that fear. You have the American flag, and then there's this wild-looking Russian fellow down here on the bottom. He's holding a knife that says Bolshevism. Communism is Bolshevism. The Bolsheviks were the Communist Party in Russia. So the word Bolshevik or Bolshevism always means communism in the American sense. And this shady-looking Russian character is holding a torch that he is using to burn the American flag, and the torch says anarchy on it. This Red Scare permeated American culture. The Attorney General at the time was a man by the name of A. Mitchell Palmer. And A. Mitchell Palmer, here's another example of anti-Bolshevist political cartoons. You have labor that is walking down this steps towards chaos. It starts with strikes and walkouts, and then disorder and riots, and then he continues down the stairs on the road to Bolshevism and murder and chaos. And that is what Americans were fearful of after World War I ended. The Attorney General, this guy by the name of Mitchell Palmer decided that he was going to prevent these communists from taking over the American government, and so he instituted a series of raids that came to be known in history as the Palmer Raids. And he used different methods to identify communists and pretty much had federal agents burst into their houses, steal their stuff, steal their literature, arrest them, and chuck them in jail. It's quite a clear violation of their constitutional rights. He based it on national security protocols, national security needs. And there were, let's not pretend for a moment that there were not communists in the United States. There was a lot of communists in the United States. But although the Palmer raids netted thousands upon thousands of communists and tens of thousands of pieces of communist literature, they only found like 3 guns. So there was obviously communists in America, and they liked to talk, and they liked to publish things, and they liked to put things out there in the news. But clearly, the American Communist Party was nowhere near this desire or ability to overthrow the American government. Mitchell Palmer and the Palmer raids decided, though, that some of these communists that they had arrested were too dangerous to stay in the United States. So now we're going to go back. So, onto the USS Buford, 249 non-citizen communists, so resident aliens, people who were not American citizens and had been arrested as communists and were proven to be communists and had admitted to be communists. Mitchell Palmer put them, along with some pretty well-known authors among the communists, Mitchell Palmer put them on this American ship, this is the USS Buford, and pretty much said, if you'd like to be a communist, you can be a very happy communist over in Russia. And the USS Buford sailed to Russia and left its cargo of 250 American communists there. And Many of them did not survive Stalin's purges, were killed in the communist violence in Russia. The next thing, what you're looking at over here, this is Sacco and Vanzetti. These are two Italian communist, anarchist, atheist immigrants who got caught up in a murder trial. These two, Sacco and Vanzetti, were accused of murder. And the trial that they got was highly biased. The judge was biased, the jury was biased. They simply did not, the jury looked to convict these two men based on the fact that they were foreigners, they were communists, they were anarchists, they were atheists. They were everything that a good old American was not supposed to be. And they were both convicted of the crime. There was a blatantly unfair judge who pretty much, helped the jury out. There was clearly bias on the jury. And these two men, their cause became a cause célèbre among the international left. Communists and socialists around the world and progressives around the world rallied to the cause of Sacco and Vanzetti. And they said these guys got screwed, they got an unfair trial, they're only on trial because of who they are and what their beliefs are. But the American courts, they were found, in their opinion, they were found guilty by a jury of their peers. And in 1927, I believe, Sacco and Vanzetti were executed. That all of the pleading and the crying and the fact that they had a biased trial did not save their lives. And they became, in the minds of left-wing people around the world, communists and socialists and progressives, they kind of became political heroes, that they were wrongfully tried, wrongfully executed by the American government. Modern forensics testing has shown that in all likelihood, at least one of them, and probably both, were in fact guilty of the murder. But that did not mean that their rights should have been violated as they were. The cause of Sacco and Vanzetti, which was in 1927, was another reason for the international left and the progressive left to dislike the American government, and another reason, as another example of how Americans showed their distaste for these extreme viewpoints of anarchism and communism in their midst. The Red Scare sort of petered out after Mitchell Palmer's raids did not discover much in the way of revolutionary, violent things. But American anti-communism remained strong and would remain strong throughout the rest of the century. The Red Scare was just the first kind of outward example of American fear that communists were going to infiltrate their government and their society.